loud enough for everyone to hear. "Oh, I wouldn't miss the chance to tell your family about what happened at that restaurant, Rachel. I'm sure they'd love to hear that story." The look of absolute panic on her face as her dad started bringing out the food? Worth every second of anxiety it took to get there. Game on. Second update. I'm finally ready to share what happened at Rachel's birthday dinner. Sorry for the delay. I needed a mental health day after all this drama. Plus, my Wi-Fi has been acting up because my neighbor borrowed my password and apparently downloaded the entire internet. Where did we leave off? Right. Me sitting at the dinner table with Rachel's family while she panicked about what I might say. So there I was, surrounded by Rachel's family. Her parents Tom and Ruth, her brother Kyle, her grandpa, and two cousins whose names I always mix up. The table was loaded with Tom's famous pot roast, those buttery mashed potatoes I've literally dreamed about, and a fancy salad that nobody was going to eat but everyone would pretend to appreciate. The first 20 minutes were straight up awkward. Rachel kept trying to control the conversation while shooting me these warning glances. I just smiled and passed the bread rolls, enjoying the way her left eye twitched every time I opened my mouth. Petty? Maybe? Satisfying? Absolutely. Tom kept the conversation flowing. Bless him. He asked about my family, my job, the usual small talk. When he mentioned how proud they all were of Rachel's big promotion, I nearly choked on my water. I glanced at Rachel, whose face had gone the exact shade of the beets on the table. Rachel jumped in, talking about how her team was crushing their targets and how her boss was practically grooming her for senior management. I just nodded along, watching her dig herself deeper with each word. Ruth, who's always been the quiet type, suddenly asked Rachel about the Johnson account. Apparently, Rachel had been telling her mom about some huge deal she was supposedly leading. Rachel's answer was so vague, it could have been a horoscope. Something about strategic pivots and leveraging core competencies that literally meant nothing. Her brother Kyle caught my eye across the table. He's always been the skeptical one in the family, the type to Google facts during arguments and call people out on their BS. He raised an eyebrow at me like, "Is she for real right now?" That's when Tom brought up the future. He asked us about our big news and whether it had anything to do with us taking the next step. Rachel nearly dropped her fork and mumbled something about it not being the right time to discuss it. Her grandpa, who has zero filter and is my absolute favorite person in her family, cuts in with, "So are you two moving in together or what? Because Rachel said you were looking at apartments together." Again, news to me. The furthest we'd gotten in that conversation was me once saying, maybe we should think about combining our Netflix accounts to save money. Rachel tried steering the conversation back to herself, talking about how her boss had given her a company card for business expenses. I couldn't help myself. I asked what kind of expenses she was authorized to approve. She stammered something about client dinners and team outings. That's when I casually mentioned, "Oh, speaking of dinners, Rachel took me to this amazing restaurant last week." "What was it called again, honey? The one where you met up with Leona and Paula?" The color drained from her face faster than my phone battery on TikTok.